Hi, thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything at a Bit Gay podcast. I have a really special guest today. Her name is Suzan Owens, and she has a really unique background, I would say, not just in travel, but just like things that she's done in her life. And her main thing that we're going to talk about today is numerology. So, welcome to the show, Suzan.
Oh, thank you so much, Zach. I'm really happy to be here.
So, tell me first, let's start with how you found numerology or how it found you. Can you tell me that story and how you got into it?
I've always been metaphysical, always been interested in astrology and tarot and all of that. And when I found numerology, it grabbed me. Couldn't get enough. I was like this sponge and I kept buying books and I found a couple of authors that oddly lived very close to me and mentored me.
Oh,
So that
awesome.
was fabulous. And really what it is, what it's become for me is a framework in which I run my life. Numerology, everything has energy, right?
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything, yep.
And numbers carry a specific different energy. Each number has a different energy. Each number has a different vibration. And every number in the universe comes down to numbers 1 through 9. Sorry, zero is a placeholder, but they all
Yeah.
come to 1 through 9. So numerology runs on a 9-year cycle. And this year, because it's 2024, it's an 8-year. 2 plus 2 plus 4 is 8.
Okay.
And every year changes. So for the purpose of this conversation, and we're so close to next year, let's just talk about 2025. I love
Okay. Yeah.
so 2025 is a 9-year. Now, because 2 plus 2 plus 5. Okay. So we have that. Now, also for your listeners, I want you to understand that you also have a personal year. So everyone carries that 9 energy, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. But we get a personal year as well. And the way you calculate your personal year is you add your birth month and your birthday together with the current year, or what we're saying is 9.
Yeah.
So if you're born today is December 20th, so that would be 3. December is a 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. And a 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Add that to a 9, that's 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. So you're in a 5 personal year.
Okay.
Okay, so 9-year, and I'll go through this quickly because we got so much to talk about.
Okay.
But it really is a big part of numerology, the personal year, because this is your future. This is the energy of the numbers that the energy that's with you. Okay. You and I talked about it already, and we both have the same personal year as the current year. So for us, we have a lot of 9 vibration, and 9 vibration is all about completion, endings. Numerology, like I said, runs on a 9-year cycle. So we're finishing up this 9 years. And it's really a spiritual year, highly intuitive year, a year for things to end. Things do, whether you're ready for them to or not. It's a way to clear out your metaphysical and your physical closets. Get rid of things that you don't want to take with you to the next year, that 1 year, which would be 2026. So the big part of that 9-year is receiving the rewards that you used, that maybe you receive because you worked really hard in the last 9 years.
Yeah.
Or it'll bring you some challenges of things that really need to be completed before you start the next cycle.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a huge, it's a big year. And then
Do you have, since you're a 9 as well, is there something that you know that you need to start or be thankful for or clean out for yourself?
Yes, there's a lot of things that I've been working on that I know that are going to finish next year.
Okay.
It's not really a good year to start new things. However, I already told you I've got a new book coming out next year, but I've been working on that all year. So it
Yeah.
feels like it's a completion to
Yeah.
get that book out. And then the other piece of that, it's very spiritual. And 9 is a humanitarian number. So it's also a year to be of service
Mm.
and to serve the greater good. So that's another piece of that 9 energy that comes through for everyone. So in 2026, I always say, so if you've added your numbers together and if you actually have a 1 personal year, that's the new beginnings.
Okay.
This last year for you was a 9-year, or not for you, but for those
Yeah.
1 year. Okay. I don't want to get too confusing. But that's new beginnings. This is the year to manifest. What is it that you want to create for the next 9 years?
Yeah.
That's a 1 year. And I tell people, this is my favorite. I tell people there's 3 columns in your manifestation column. And when you're manifesting, you don't just let it float around in your head. You write it down, get it into the physical world. It's really important. So the first column is your must haves.
Okay.
What must you have? Okay, good health, right? Again, everybody needs that. And whatever else you can think of that you must have in your life. The second column is might be nice if. This would be nice if I had this. Okay, it might be nice if I lost a couple pounds. Whatever. Just them would be nice.
Yeah.
Now, third column, and this is the most important one, I think. This is in my wildest dreams. What do I want in the next 9 years? This is where you do not censor yourself. You write out anything that just comes. You just kind of let your pencil go or your pen go,
Yeah.
just and create it. Okay. That's your 1 year. It's a busy year, outward year, lots of new opportunities. The 2 year, thankfully, is a more inward year. It's not a year to manifest. It's a year to fill in the blanks of things that you've tried, that you've tried to manifest the beginning of the year before.
Okay.
Okay. It's really nurturing those seeds that you've planted. In other words, taking care of them, not tugging at the roots. It's a year that and we talked about it too earlier, that 2 energy is a cooperation. It's not competition. 2 is a good diplomatic number, harmony, balance, really important in a 2 year. Might
Okay.
find a new home in a 2 year. There you go. So then the next one, a 3 year. I'm a 3. Threes like to talk. The pride. Anyway, in a 3 year, it's going to be a communicative year. You're going to put yourself out there, very social. Money can come to a 3. It's a good lucky year. Going to be a year to clear out communication issues that are unresolved. Let me just say it that way. There might be some family challenges or whatever
Yeah.
that way, but it's really a fun year, and take advantage of that fun year, because the next year, the 4 year, is all about working hard. The 4 is the structure, building a foundation, keeping your nose to the grindstone, diligence, not a year to take risks. You just do your work. And a 5 year, this is why the 4 year is really good to do the structure and do the work. A 5 year is expansive. You're leaping off this foundation that you just built in the 4 year. And it usually does mean opportunities, risk taking. Don't take a risk in a 4 year. You just do your work. And then you have something to complete, though. This is the thing about a 4 year, is that if you do your work, if you stick to a project, you'll have something to look back on and say, I did it.
Got it.
That's a good thing. So again, 5 year, freedom at all costs, experience life, good to put yourself out there. A 6 year, home, family, responsibility, relationship. We call it the marriage and divorce year. Now, okay, that's extreme, right? Marriage and divorce.
Yeah.
Either you get married or you get a divorce, and it's somewhere along the spectrum, but
Yeah.
mainly your relationships will be under the spotlight. And you'll be probably caregiving. Your family will need you more in that
Okay.
6 year. In a 7 year, if your numbers add up to a 7 for a personal year, this is an internal year. This is a year to do some research and ask yourself the big questions. What am I doing? Am I on the right path? Am I following my heart's desire and my destiny? Whatever. But it's a year to really do some introspection. Take care of yourself. Here
Mhm.
for a vision quest, elevate your insights. And you might find that you've shifted a little. Your path has shifted a little in a 7 year. It can do that. 8 year. Now, this is interesting because an 8 year is also this year. Okay. So if you want to think of it that way, because I started my business, I put myself out there, my online business, in an 8 year. 8 is all about business management, being the authority. Money comes and goes a lot in an 8
It
year.
is so funny you say that because this is the year I started my podcast.
See, it's a perfect year to do that.
Yeah.
And see, that's the cool thing about numbers, is that the number energy is there,
Yeah.
whether you ignore it or whether you don't know about it or whatever. But isn't it nicer to know what the energy is, to
Yeah.
work with and feel it support you rather than blowing you in the face? This isn't a year to sit home and study. This is a year to put yourself out there like you did. And you've been successful, right? You really
I
worked.
never thought it would be I did this as a hobby almost, and then it took off and I started making money on it. I'm like, what's going on here? So this makes total sense because
Yeah. Perfect.
this is my year 8.
Yep. Perfect. I love it. I love it. My daughter is in a 9-year this year, and so is her business in a 9-year. And I thought, okay, things are going to shift at the end of the year. Sure enough, they've merged with another company, and she's now working for the other company. And yeah, it's crazy
So
busy.
year 9 doesn't necessarily mean bad. It just means that things are
Mhm.
wrapping up and it could be fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I look back over my life in my 9 years.
Yeah.
2016 was the last 9 year. Think about what you did then. I
Yeah.
did, I did the Camino. I walked the 500 miles across Spain. I did a pilgrimage across
Wow.
Spain. And it was a really impactful trip for me because I realized I was a pilgrim in another life and they didn't get to experience the completion of it and I did. So it was a soul completion for me.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was a big deal.
So tell me about some of the people that maybe you have helped with numerology and some of the results that you had, or you say you've done tarot card readings. Tell me about some amazing stories because I believe in all of this. So I'm excited to hear what you've given people.
Well,
Guide.
it's interesting too, Zach, because I know the numbers. I've got the information right in front of me. And then there's things that come through that aren't written down anywhere. And it's like, nope, this is what you need to do. And I can see this. This is where the guidance is.
Uh-huh.
I was telling a woman that she's got something coming up. Things are going to shift for her. And it didn't really say that she was a writer or anything creative, but it came through that she needs to tell her story.
Okay.
And believe me, her story was horrific. And she said, everybody's told their stories. And I said, they haven't told your story.
Yeah.
So what was amazing about that, we were at a conference and a well-renowned psychic told her the same thing in front of everybody. He said, you've got to tell your story. This is really important. And that's what I got too, was that it was cathartic. It was going to be cathartic for her to tell her story. So I thought, all right, we'll see what happens, but I think I've convinced her enough that everybody did,
Yeah.
that you've got to tell your story. And another woman was again at this end of her career and it was fulfilling at a time, but now it's just not. And she's moving into a whole different space. And it was guidance in that. And this is such a good time to do conversations like this because the energy shifts in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So what's coming up? What do I need to pay attention to? What am I going into? People really want to know that. What's a good year for me to do this? Is it a good year to write a book? Or is it a good year to promote my business or a good year to find a relationship?
Did
You
the
know,
woman tell her story after you told her to do that? Has she done that yet?
not yet. No,
Okay.
she's working on it. This was recently,
Okay.
but she wasn't at the first time when I said it to her, it was like, no, I don't want it. But by the time the conference was over, it was like, I've got to go home and write. And I sent her a way I sent her opportunities to write. And that's the thing. People don't understand what it takes to write.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a creative and I just like to spew it all out there. You can't write a book that way. You
Yeah.
have to be disciplined and structured. And that's not my strength, but
Yeah.
it's how you accomplish stuff. So, yeah, it's been really fun to talk to people about what's in their life, what's in their energy.
Yeah.
And I did tell a guy that he mentioned that he was thinking he was going to finish school and he has a master's and all that. And he was done. And I said, no, you need to go get your PhD. And I
Okay.
haven't heard from him. This was last year. I haven't heard from him yet. But by the time the conversation was over, he's gone, I'm going to look into the program. Well, it just gives people a new
Yeah.
perspective, really. And I'm not attached to whether they do it or not. It's none of my business. But
Do you think that you've given advice to people or given guidance and that you've completely changed a path of somebody's life that they were going to take?
I'm going to think about that right away. But yes, I do, because it's a different perspective. And sometimes I planted seeds. Let me
Yeah.
say it that
Yeah.
way. I planted seeds. So I've looked at ways for people to go, okay, I see this in your chart. You're coming up to a very challenging time. And I just want you to know that it's not a crisis. but you're going to go through some challenges. So there's a preparation that I can give people that, okay, I got that. That there's some information I can share, but for them to experience it in their own way, that's really what it comes
Do you
down
ever
to.
have to deliver bad news?
No, and really, truthfully, that's as bad as it gets from me because
Okay.
I can look at a chart and I did tell someone the other day that I looked at her chart and her partner is not doing very well.
Mm,
And I did say, yeah, things are going to change there. You might think about preparing yourself in the next few years. There's going to be a
yeah,
shift. And I wouldn't say that to everybody either, Zach. It was somebody I knew was a good friend of mine. We
yeah.
understood that kind of thing. But no, I am not a deliverer of bad news. I will say if there's a number that shows up, there's a particular number that shows up on a chart. When it's shown up on my chart, I was in almost a lethal car wreck.
Wow.
My mother passed when it showed up in my chart again, because this is a transit chart. My father passed. And then the last time it showed up was COVID 2020.
Wow.
So I know there's challenges, right? But again, see, they're challenges, but they're life lessons, right?
Yeah,
You don't go through the death of a parent without having some growth in that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I that's pretty much the way I look at things. It as a potential learning as opposed to victim.
Can you
Something
tell
happened.
me a little bit about I mean, I did a little research on you before we did this podcast, and you have done some amazing adventures and travel. Can you tell me your top 3 things that you've done and what you learned along the way? Because it seems like some of the places you went to are very spiritual in a lot of ways, and were you in Egypt? I can't remember which story. Yeah. It seems like there was just some places that really have a lot of it feels like it'd have a lot of good energy there and stuff. And anything you can tell me about any of your travels or your adventures?
Oh, I can tell you everything. How much time do you have? I love talking about it because traveling is a passion.
Yeah.
45 countries, and Egypt is home. The first time I landed in Egypt, I knew I was home, and I did a tour of the museum. I did a Nile cruise, and that's compulsory. When you go to Egypt, you do a Nile cruise.
Yeah.
You go to the temples. It's spectacular. But I had gone into, and this is the old museum because this was quite a few years ago. And I went into the old museum and the tour guide was showing me around and telling me about all the big statues. But there was a smaller side room that had the jewelry in it and some of King Tut's things. And she couldn't go in because it was close quarters.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went in by myself and I was walking around. You can't take pictures, darn it. But I was walking around and I get to this one beautiful case and I look in it and I burst into tears. I kid you not, total uncontrollable crying. And I look at this necklace and I know I have worn that necklace. That I remember on the back of my neck where the clasp would irritate my skin. It was just unreal. And I'm sobbing. I'm sad. I'm a mess.
Yeah.
And I go out and she's looking at me like, what in the world happened to you in
Yeah.
there? And because Muslims in that culture, they're not really into the spiritual.
Yeah.
They're in the Egyptology part of it, but they're not into a lot of the spiritual aspects of
Yeah.
Egyptian culture. Anyway, so that was a huge experience for me, and it was a past life, and I worked on that. It was during a time of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, and being a part of that, and I go back to Egypt all the time, and it feels like home.
Yeah.
Absolutely feels like home all the time.
Where's your favorite place that you've been to?
Oh, that's a hard one because there's so many. When I'm driving through, I traveled all over the United States too, me and my dog, right?
Yeah.
My dog and I did this wonderful tour. And as you're driving through, and you know this too, I know you do, that when you're driving through a town that you've never been to before, there's a feeling, there's a sense that you get that you say, oh, I could live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, or get me out of here
Yeah.
whenever
None of
you can't stay. So there's that, and no matter whatever country you're in. So I think yes, there's many places I'd live in the United States, and I have. I love Peru. I lived in with a shaman. We did plant medicine. He
Yeah.
taught me all about what the plants do and what their healing properties are, as well as We did ayahuasca.
I wanna
We
do it. I really do wanna do it. I feel like it would be life-changing.
Yeah, it is, and there's an amazing amount of research now happening and
Yeah,
studies on the incredible PTSD
yeah.
resolutions, and it's phenomenal, it's really
Same thing
exciting.
with mushrooms and stuff. I wish they would
Mhm.
look into that more
Yeah,
as well. In
yeah.
Massachusetts, they just had a vote to see if they would make psychedelics legal, and it didn't pass, and I was shocked because I just couldn't believe that they wouldn't pass that.
No, it's slow. It
Yeah,
takes time, but the more it's continuing to happen because there are ways to be able to do this.
yeah,
I think you asked me though, one of my most fun travel adventures was
yeah.
on a freighter. Excuse me. I was traveling New Zealand, both North and South Island. I was driving myself. I'd ride the bus. I do all these things. And then I knew there was freighter travel available. And I met this guy in Napier that eh, said he knew all about freighter travel. I didn't know anything. I just knew I wanted to do it.
Okay,
Okay, long story short, I got a freighter out of Dunedin, which is on the South Island, and it took me to Port Keelong, which was the Malaysia, and also Singapore. Oh my gosh, I love
I love
Singapore.
Singapore too.
Gosh, incredible
Yeah,
place. So I traveled around Malaysia. Beautiful people. Malay people are absolutely the kindest, honest, beautiful people. Anyway, so I was to catch a French ship from Port Keelong that would take me to China and back. And that was extraordinary. The story is me and 25 sailors went to China. And we had so much fun. And of course, I'm an anomaly. It's just American women
yeah,
traveling by. But they were so kind. And the food was amazing. We had linens. We had more silverware than you could imagine. And French food. It was just, it's not what you would think.
yeah,
I had all the day to myself. I had time. That was the thing. You get time on the ship. And then we'd go to a port in China and I would have the day. I'd get off the ship. Before I got off the ship, the captain would always say, "We will not wait for you."
okay.
Right.
And
So
you didn't
that
wanna
was
get stuck there either, right?
oh, no, because they don't speak English.
Yeah,
I did struggle one time. I because these ports are enormous. We went in through Hong Kong a number of times, and I thought, I have got to remember how to get back here
yeah,
because I'm gonna find it. But anyway, I went into a Walmart. This was crazy. It was in, I want to say Shenzhen, but there was this Walmart and I got to walk around the place and it was so cool because they had a deli. Okay. And it's not anything like a deli
yeah,
you and I have seen.
yeah,
I mean, there was so many colors. There was a whole big pile of chicken feet and a whole other pile of other, I'm not sure what they were,
yeah,
but I didn't order any. I just took pictures.
yeah.
That was all I could do. And then I did the panda thing.
Oh, you
I was
did?
that was so extraordinary because I was in Hong Kong and I talk to strangers. I always talk to strangers. And I was in Hong Kong at the time and I was talking to a guy and I said, "I don't know what I need to do next. Where do I want to go in Hong Kong?" And he said, "You need to go to Feng Shui Panda Preserve." And I did. I went, wow, okay, I'm going to get there. And then I got to take care of the pandas for the weekend, which was pretty much clean out their cages,
Yeah,
which Panda Poop Patrol, they were mostly pregnant females. And I got to feed them and I got to hold a baby panda, which was just a
yeah.
blast. So it's things like that. You stay open to, you
Have
know?
you thought about writing a book about all these amazing adventures? You've had such an incredible sounding life just from your travel. Forget the numerology and everything else. Just your amazing travel and these stories that you have would be a fantastic book or 2 or 3.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that because I did work on my psychic traveler stories, and then it turned out to be a blog on.
Yeah, I'd seen yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like that's where that's going to be. I do have a memoir because my life story, I was adopted when I was 4.
Okay.
You know, there's a whole long story there. And my life experience is what got me to here. So there's a memoir coming out that I'm not just sure when. I've got to
Yeah.
get my book coming out next year is another numerology book
Okay.
called Know Your Superpowers. and know your future.
Okay.
And what we talked about earlier with the personal year, that's the future. And we can break it down into months and even down into days.
Wow. And so that's
And
coming out March, April?
yeah, it's my hope. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay.
The other thing, if you sign up on my website, it's a freebie. I send you an email every month to tell you what the month is about within your personal year. So for
Okay.
instance, next year, you're in a 9 year like I am. So January is going to be a 1 month for you. So that's a beginning month and it'll give you ideas on how to best utilize that numerology energy for January every month.
Yeah.
So it's a freebie. I just give me your email address and I'll be happy to send that to you.
I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
One is just about the travel again. What's the most spiritual place that you went and that you traveled to? That's my first question. My second question, I'll ask you that after.
Oh gosh, there's been so many.
What
I
place really resonated with you? You could feel just the energy and stuff, just it just changed you.
Right. I wanna say the temples in Egypt were big
Yeah.
because it felt like home. And then also because we mentioned it too, but the Camino, I went to all the cathedrals, and it was in Lyon that I made that revelation. Again, sobbing for no reason. I walk into this enormous cathedral, beautiful place, and I had to sit down and let myself go because it was the revelation that I'd been a pilgrim and I was doing a soul completion because I'd never really the first time I heard about the Camino, I know I'd never heard about it
Yeah.
before, and it was in the 90s, I think. And I had an understanding, a knowing that I would be doing the Camino. Not that I ever wanted to do it,
Okay.
but that I knew I was going to do it. And that's different. That's a different energy to that. And I forgot about it. And then, I think I was I don't know, late 50s, then I thought, "I'm gonna do this before I turn 60." That would have been 2016. So I went,
Yeah.
"Shoot, I'm gonna get it done."
Yeah.
So that's a big one. So there's many I have to say there's been so many places. It was another place that I knew I'd been in before and in a past life, and it was a beautiful life. My daughter was my mother, and yeah, beautiful
Where
stuff.
do you think you'll end up you're retiring? Like, where do you think that you'll end where you're at now? Or do you think you'll go to another country? Do you think like, where do you think you'll end up?
I live in Coeur d'Alene, and I love Coeur d'Alene. It's
Okay.
beautiful, stunning, stunning town, and so far, I'm enjoying the winters still.
Okay.
Once it gets to be I'll need to escape. I like Southern California, Arizona, I've been down there a lot,
Yeah.
and next 9 years, because like I told you, I can go back to all my 9 years.
Yeah.
9 years have been big travel years, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be traveling a lot next year. I don't know what yet or where.
Yeah.
I will ring in the new year in California, though, so that
Okay.
kinda says to me, "Yeah, get ready, girl, you're gonna be traveling."
And then my other question for you is you talked about manifestation, which I discovered, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago or maybe even a year ago. And it really worked. How often when you're talking about doing the manifestation, so I would do it every day. I try to do it. I think I was saying it 3 times before I'd go to sleep, and I don't know, just opening myself up as I was saying it and hoping. What's your idea of manifest?
I got you.
Yeah, what is
I'm
your idea?
This is so good. I love that you and I both have the same years because this is really interesting. This one came to me. I write every day. I write at least 3 pages in my journal every day, sometimes twice that, and rarely less than that. So, what I find is that the first page and a half is something,
Yeah.
clearing it out, clearing the web, and then the next page and a half is, "Oh, okay, this is what's coming up," or whatever. That's my manifestation thing, I'll put that out there.
Okay.
Now, because this is our 8th year, and you talked about that, doing the business, this has been an overachiever year. I've been chasing it, I've been working at it, I've been writing, I've been
Yeah.
doing the podcast, which I love this, and also just social media, which I'm working on. But
Okay.
anyway, so it's constant, right? You're just constantly doing things. So what's interesting is there's that level of manifestation, right? You're putting out there all these things that you really want and what you want to do.
Okay.
And it is a driven year. 8 is an absolutely driven year. Next year, slow down, and it's a receptive year.
Okay.
9 year is connect to that spiritual guidance and allow it to come to you. It's not about chasing it down anymore. It's not about the doing, it's more about the being
Mm.
and really receiving the guidance that you need to. And where are you going to go with that? What's going to come into your life? Because like I told you, I know next year is going to be a travel year. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's international.
Yeah.
That seems to be that's what's been guiding me, but I'll just wait and see. And it's really important too, because you need that time to be driven.
Yeah.
You get that work done and do that, but you also need that time for the universe to give back to you or to give to you as well and to guide you, surrender. So it's,
That
they're
makes a
two
lot
really
of makes a
important.
lot of sense just because I feel like I worked so hard once this podcast did. I realized it was more than a hobby, and I feel like I put so much effort into it. So maybe next year I can continue doing it and not have to put so much work and
Mhm.
effort into because I have a full-time job. This isn't my full-time job. I have a real job on top of this. So I'm hoping next year this will continue. I think it's fun, but there were times where I'm just like, "Oh, I have so much work to do, and I have this and that," and it became a second job. So I'm hoping next year it's my ninth year. I hope I'm hoping that I can do what you're saying and just take that in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because things will leave, because they do.
Yeah,
Things resolve in a 9 year. And ideally, it lightens your load. Whatever
yeah,
that is, it lightens your load and makes room for manifestations in that 1 year. That's the whole purpose of it. But yeah, I'm tired.
yeah,
I look at this, my book is done basically. My first draft is done, and it won't take me much to go back through it and fix it. But I find myself just going, not procrastinating, but just taking a breath,
yeah,
just going, "Well, okay, just it'll come out. It's gonna work. I've got too much behind this not to have it come out."
yeah,
And then, all right, what am I gonna do next too? You know,
yeah.
where and be available. That's the whole point. Listen, be open and listening to what guidance is telling you where you're gonna go and what you're gonna
Yeah,
do.
this was a good year, but I'm ready for it to be over because I'm tired too. So I'm ready for the next thing to come on.
Yeah, I ditto. I'm right there with you. And I'm glad it's a 9 year. I think we all I think we all need a break.
Yeah,
Here it is. Yeah.
I agree. So thank you so much for being on. You are so fascinating. So I want everybody to go to Amazon.com. There's a book called Wisdom of Numerology that Susan has on Amazon, and I am going to order that today. And then we'll look for her new book that's coming out. But also go to her website. Like she said, sign up for it. It's Susan, but let me spell it for you. It's Suzan Owens, OWENS.com, SusanOwens.com. And go to her website and check it out, sign up for her mailing list, and anything else you'd like to let people know?
I do, and I apologize because I didn't make that clear to you. It's wisdomofnumerology.com is where you sign up to get those monthly updates.
Okay,
So same as the book, Wisdom and Numerology, but wisdomandnumerology.com. But absolutely go to susanowens.com and you can read all about my travels. That's a whole nother story. And a lot of all those pictures are mine. Those are
there
all
were some
my
amazing pictures on there. That's why I said you need to write a book about your
I
life
know,
and your
right?
travel. You really do.
That's how it ended up online instead of a book because I thought I've got 22,000 photos, which won't all go in a book.
Yeah,
But you know what I'm saying? It's like people can see the photos and that's the
yeah.
part.
That's
So,
amazing. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you for being on. When you have your new book come out, please come back on and talk about it.
absolutely. I'll call you, I promise.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast, give a comment, and thanks so much for listening. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.